I'm going to call the meeting to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli? Cosarelli?
Vinny, you have
I'm
to-
here. Did you hear me?
No, I did
Did
not.
you hear me?
Now
Yes,
we
now I
do.
can. DePena?
Here.
Graziano?
Here.
Natari?
Here.
Rovell?
Here.
Strumalo Burke? Mayor Melham?
Here. Sunshine notice?
Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was published in the Thursday, December 24th editions of the Belleville Times and Star Ledger. In an effort to prevent further spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, the public meetings have been changed to Zoom. A copy of the annual meeting notice has been posted on the Belleville Town Hall bulletin board, and copies are on file in the municipal clerk's office.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to
Pledge
the flag,
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the
to the
republic,
republic for which it stands, one nation,
one nation,
God.
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now we're at item number 4, which is discussion. And we have one item for discussion here. It is Peter J. Lupo Esquire, to discuss veteran-friendly municipal program. So I'm told by the manager that we have Mr. Lupo present. Is he on video? There you are. I think you're on mute, sir. Now I lost you totally.
I'm back. Can you hear me now, Mayor?
Yes, I can hear you. So let me just set the table first. So obviously you're here at our council meeting. Thank you for being here. I believe most council people are present. I'm going to just ask anybody who's not speaking on the phone. I am getting some feedback. Okay, so anybody not speaking, there's a Samsung that seems to be, do we know who that is? We're gonna just,
I'm on the other line with Madam Burke, and we may be having some technical difficulties, and I believe that's her phone. Just give me 1 minute.
I heard her. I just heard her.
Sounded like her.
Hey, Mayor, you're going in and out with your voice. Sometimes you go low and sometimes you're steady tone. I don't know.
It's our Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Let me just check what network I'm on.
Now you sound good.
So I'm on level 2. It seems like I have a poor connection. But we are still getting feedback. I don't, I'm sorry, Mr. Lupo. Just give us 1 second.
No worries, Mayor.
No, we have a Samsung smartphone that's not muted.
Hey, Pete, can you mute for a second?
So Marie's gonna hang up, and we're gonna try it again.
Oh, so you can't mute the Samsung? Sorry, everybody. This is the
Those
modern world we live in, conducting meetings. I think it actually is Mr. Lupos. It's for some
Yeah,
reason,
that's what I thought.
some feedback coming in from him.
Yep, that's better that he's now muted.
Right. Now everybody looks muted, so let's unmute Mr. Lupo. You're still muted. Okay. So we maybe have a handle on things. So obviously, Mr. Lupo is here to discuss a veteran-friendly program. Usually these discussions happen for the first council meeting of the month, but it appears here today. So we're gonna give Mr. Lupo an opportunity to explain what he's offering to bring to Belleville. Lupo, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Council members, thank you very much for getting me on the agenda for tonight to speak about the veteran-friendly municipality. So my name is Lieutenant Colonel Pete Lupo. I'm the Vice President of Legislative Outreach, Public Affairs for the New Jersey Veterans Chamber of Commerce. I know I'm joined by some other veterans who are probably on the call right now supporting the initiative. I am a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan. I just recently got back from Afghanistan. I was there from 2018 to 2019. You know, we all volunteer. So everyone on the Veterans Chamber of Commerce volunteer for the greater good of veterans in the state of New Jersey. So what brings me here tonight is the veteran-friendly municipality. So we asked a few things of municipalities in order to get the certification. One is the parking signs, reserved parking. We asked for 3, and obviously everyone's parking requirements. Belleville may have tighter than others, so we asked for 3 parking signs. Something that says, please save the spot for a veteran. Thank you for your service. The second thing we asked for is a set aside for in terms of bids for RFPs. So you're permitted to do by the municipal land use law, you're allowed to have a set aside for certain types of qualifying groups of people. Veterans are one of those. And the other thing we asked for is a 3% target goal of hiring veterans into your workforce. So DPW, police department, things of that nature. Those are the 3 big things we ask. And a little bit of a context about why this is helpful for veterans. One, it doesn't cost the municipality anything to do this. The other big thing is to understand people who either get active duty service or in the National Guard on the reserve. So I'm a lawyer by trade.
I'm just gonna interrupt you. We're having difficulty hearing you. I don't know if it's your microphone or.
Would you like me to hold while you try to rectify?
That sounds better.
It sounds better?
Yeah.
I'll continue if that's okay with you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Okay. So a little backdrop about veterans and the types of obstacles veterans face compared to their other countrymen. So if you're in National Guard and Reserve and you pick up and leave your business, say you have a landscaping business and you go away for a year, you go to Afghanistan, you go to Iraq, you go to Syria, effectively, and you're a one-man shop, it means that you're pretty much out of business. You got to shut down the shop, and you've missed multiple cycles of seasons. If you're a landscaper, that means people's weeds still grow. They still have needs in terms of what they need to do for their landscaping and hardscaping purposes. And what happens is, and it's not that they're unpatriotic, but needs are needs, and life goes on if a person is deployed in, say, Afghanistan. So what happens is they go away and they come back and they've discovered their entire business is gone. They have no business left. So they have to face rebuilding their business. They come back after a year and go back to the same clients, maybe get new businesses. So they don't have the same sort of playing field as most other people or most other Americans. And what this initiative does in terms of preferences for veterans, it allows veterans to get rehired. If you own a business, you have an RFP, for example, for road paving or whatever it is you don't do internally. It gives a veteran business an opportunity to get work through Belleville, which helps them put them on a level playing field versus other citizens. So those are the key things about the ordinance, why it's beneficial for veterans, and really effectively doesn't cost Belleville any money at all. So we would never want to do anything that would be imposed on the taxpayers, and I think that's kind of a good way, I believe, of doing things. So that's kind of my presentation. Hopefully, during discussions, the council members, and the mayor, you look favorably upon this proposal. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything you have.
So, yeah, first and foremost, I know I'm certain probably Councilman Ravel is going to want to project it. Before I pass it off to him, I did review your document, and there's about 10 different items on here. I'm still getting a lot of, yeah, there you go. There's about 10 different items on that. I know you went through about 3 of them, including the 3% for subcontractors. So you may know a little bit about Belleville and our recent history, but this is a very pro-veteran community. The entire council has always been very supportive of all of our initiatives for our local veterans, including entertaining becoming a Purple Heart community. So this has been a very welcoming council, something that I think collectively as a body that we're very proud of. My only question would be, for lack of a better word, policing? How do we monitor the fact that, 6% of contracts are going toward veterans, or, what is the mechanism in place to self-police this, I guess, is really the only question that I would have. And then I'll hand it off to Councilman Lavelle.
Sure. We have a certification process internally at the New Jersey State Veterans Chamber of Commerce. So everyone has to be a certified, either disabled, service disabled veteran, or a combat, a veteran. So we manage certification. We have a website that lists different businesses that are affiliated with us. So that'd be one, the qualification. And then, any veteran business that wants to apply and seek to set aside would have to provide proof, either through us, or if they decide not to go through the chamber, directly to the municipality and provide evidence that they are in fact a veteran-owned business. Now, these goals that we ask for, you do by resolution, are aspirational. So you may not always have enough veteran-owned businesses that apply or qualify to do whatever RFPs that you have issued or whatever needs you have. But in terms of policing, at least on the qualification end, that the veteran is in fact, either a service disabled veteran or combat veteran, they would have to provide that. That's something you get from the VA department, a letter you get evidencing that you have it. And on your side, the veteran would provide that, and then I guess you would keep monitor who is actually applying and the amount of veteran businesses that you are actually awarding contracts to.
So when it says proactively notify veteran, is that something that the chamber does? Because we would have no way to do that.
No, we would be in communication with you on those RFPs. So maybe someone I don't know who would you designate in town to do it, but send us an email. Just say, hey guys, there's an RFP rolling out, RFQ rolling out for road paving, for example, or a roof for the municipal building, and let us know, and we disseminate that amongst our members. And then if we have any qualified members who are interested, they would apply for that position and then put it in the RFP paperwork.
Got it.
It would come through purchasing, Mike, somehow.
Right. Well, that's the question, somehow.
No. I mean, what you do is, and it's really up to us at a certain point. On the federal level, you actually put out an RFP that says, this is a veteran set aside, this is whatever, and only veterans can bid on it. I mean, there's a couple of different ways to do this, which, I've gone through using disabled vets, using regular, just, veteran-owned status. So there's a couple of things we can take a look at.
Okay. Any other council members?
I did want to say something to Peter, if that's possible. Hey, Peter, number one, I want to thank you for your service and as well as the rest of the vets that are on. And I appreciate what you're doing for the vets. I mean, the federal government does do veteran set-asides and service disabled set-asides, and it makes sense to kind of try to do that at the lower levels. I think the other thing we can possibly do, and I think we've been doing it, is we do have, a veteran priority when it comes to police, fire, and Department of Personnel. So we can actually tell you, I think to some extent, how many of our personnel, that we've hired in the last 5-10 years are veterans. So I think that's pretty doable. So, I mean, there's a lot of things we can do to try to coordinate with you.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
It does.
It absolutely does.
Okay, so if no other council members have any comments or suggestions, Councilman Ravel, if you want to add this to a formal caucus discussion, which would be next council meeting, obviously, we'll throw your name on it and we can hash it out further if you're so inclined.
So do it.
All right, I thank you so much, Pete. Thank you for joining us.
Pete.
Thank you for your service. Okay, so we're going to move along with the rest of our meeting. So again, this is only our, I don't know, 4th or 5th, or I have no idea how many Zoom meetings we've been on, but not many. So I'm going to take a little more care, as I usually been doing, as we're virtually and as we're on Zoom, just to explain some things, let everybody know exactly where we are. Next item on our agenda is item number 5, to executive session. As I say in every council meeting, typically this is the time period where the council makes a motion to go into executive session. I like to always state the reason why we're going to executive session. In this case, it will be to receive Mr. Gassion to discuss the Claremont water bill. That's the reason why we're going into executive session. No action will be taken while the council and our professionals are out in executive session. It's just a private conversation that's happening. Reasons for that. So normally we would clear the room and ask you all to leave, and we would remain in this virtual instance. I'm going to ask you all to stay put, don't move, don't do anything. In a few seconds, council members, members of the administration, representatives from Claire Moss will get a notification on their screen to exit this Zoom, go into a private room. We will then have our conversation to hear Claire Moss, and then we shall return. Normally, I try and give a ballpark of how long it's going to be. I would expect 15 to 20 minutes or so. Again, no action is going to be taken, and we will come back and pick up the rest of the meeting as we exit executive session and go into the report of the manager. So just give us a few minutes, hold tight, don't go anywhere, and anybody seeing a notification on their screen to go into a breakout room, council members, members of the administration, representatives of Claire Moss, please do hit that join button.
You want a motion, Mike, first?
Yeah, I would like that. Sure.
I'm sending you a motion.
Councilman Revelle has made a motion to go into executive discussion to discuss Claire Moss water bill. Do I have a second? They all may have left.
Oh, Lord.
All right, how about you second it?
You sent the thing a little early, so I'll second it.
All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're good. Okay, everybody, we are back. I'm just going to give a second or so. It's very difficult to make sure that all of our council people and professionals have rejoined us. I need eyes. You know who's? Okay, we're just waiting for Councilman Natari to join. Apologies. I knew I should have never said 20 minutes or so. Things seem to always go longer, but that's what we do. We debate what we have to debate and have those conversations when we have to have them. Do we know we have everybody?
Yeah.
I believe, can some council members or the clerk or somebody just help me just scan to make sure we have, I wish I could organize it so I could see everybody in one spot.
Be a nice option to have it tiered somehow.
Yes, it would be. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Vinny's there. Chief is there. Councilwoman Burke is there. Okay, I think
Naomi's there.
there's nobody left in the other room, so I guess we're good. Okay, so apologies, everybody. No action was taken while we were in executive session. We did entertain a motion to exit executive session, which brings us to the next portion of our meeting, which is item number 6, if you're following the agenda, which is the report of the manager. Mr. Manager, the floor is yours. Just unmute yourself. You're still muted.
How's that, better?
Better.
All right, sorry about that. Hang on one second. Okay, so tonight's manager's report will be a little brief. Next meeting, or the first meeting in February, we should have all of our end of the year statistics in place. So we'll do an end of the year report similar to last year's. I was just looking at some of the numbers briefly, and the difference between obviously 2019 versus 2020 are somewhat alarming, and we'll get another true feeling of what the pandemic is impacting our community. The COVID is still taking up a lot of our time, COVID testing, COVID vaccines. Our health department put a really good piece of information on our website. I encourage everyone to go on our website and take a look at it because residents that are interested in signing up for the vaccine, it gives you the breakdown, the numbers to call to get registered. We cannot register a resident, but certainly we can assist on getting you to and back to the testing and vaccination center. So it's not just for 65 and older. There's a whole list of conditions that will qualify you to get testing that include, believe it or not, smoking, obesity, diabetes, any form of cancer. So we encourage our residents to go online. Again, if there's any questions, certainly you can call our local health department. And again, our transportation department with the county transportation is still we have a tentative plan in place, and we will certainly assist on transportation. I know that this is the last meeting on this Thursday. Deputy Chief Lutz and Deputy Chief Buckley will be walking out of the department for the last time. And I know the mayor and certainly the council members are going to probably pay a little tribute to Deputy Chief Lutz and Deputy Chief Buckley. But what I would like to say is that I had the opportunity to actually work with both of these gentlemen during the last 10 months during this pandemic. The level of professionalism and their experience has truly been an asset to our community. And certainly I'd like to thank them. Both members started on June 18th, 1991. 30 years later, it's been a good ride. 30 years ago, it went quick, but I did get to work both with Deputy Chief Lutz and Deputy Chief Buckley, and it was a privilege and a great experience. So I'd like to wish the two of them much luck in the future. Stay safe, stay healthy, and that's all I have for tonight. And I'm sure the mayor and council will also have words to express their gratitude towards both deputy chiefs.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. As usual, our reports tend to overlap a little bit. So next item on the agenda is item number 7, the report of the mayor. So I like to try and organize mine all the time by kind of what's happening currently, what just did happen, and what's kind of coming. So today I was on my Tuesday Essex County Mayor's conference call. Every single Tuesday morning, every single Essex County mayor joins the county executive on a call. We've done this since the beginning of COVID now, just under a year. So I had a question about homebound seniors because there was a press release issued by the county and some information on their website about providing in-home vaccinations for homebound seniors. That information has since vanished. We even had it in our township website. That information is now gone. So I asked the county executive specifically what's going on with that program, and as I assumed, they had an issue with the vendor that was providing it. So there is no current homebound senior program. They are going to do it. They are committed. And if the county executive and the county says they're going to do it, trust me, they're going to do it because they tend to execute very, very well. That being said, Mr. Manager, I learned today that the health office is supposed to be doing pre-registration for that. I'm not quite sure if we are, but if not, our health department, our health officer is supposedly responsible for creating a registration list of homebound seniors in need of vaccination. So if we can either confirm that or put that program into effect immediately, I would appreciate that. As we know, the Belleville vaccine locations are posted on our township website. Our vaccine center was Livingston. That was a location that was chosen by the county. I then voiced I expressed my concern that was a little bit long, or a 35-minute ride for some of our residents. They have now opened up West Orange for us, and we tentatively have approval that we can actually go to Newark if need be. That is for the vaccine once it's in your group. Well, right now we're still in, I think, tier 1A or something like that. But yes, so we are still doing that. Belleville's still doing our weekly our weekly testing, which includes antibody testing that's being done here in Belleville at the Chandelier. Information's on our website. Today, if you saw my social media, we actually did a ribbon cutting for the police department communications room. And the dedication to the Chief Mark Minikini Communications Room. I want to congratulate the chief. I see him here somewhere on having a room named after him while he's still alive. That's always a positive. That means you're a very important, chief. So it was an honor. 20 years ago, I was here on the council when we approved almost $1 million to do the room that we just replaced. So it's an honor for me to see the transition happening there. As the manager mentioned, unfortunately, I will not be available this Thursday to do a walkout with our two fine deputy chiefs in the fire department. It's a sad occasion because I like to be there every time they do a walkout. But I did have an opportunity to stop by the fire department today with a couple bottles of wine to congratulate our two deputy chiefs on their next next venture in life, I think. Had the opportunity to spend some time with Deputy Chief Buckley. Obviously, Deputy Chief Lutz has been my OEM coordinator, did a great job during COVID. We have some tough shoes to fill, but I know we're going to do that. And sadly, Thursday, as the manager said, is going to be their last day. I wish I could be there, but I just cannot. Today, I visited some residents on Fairview. That has been an ongoing concern, plethora of reasons going on there between the street, between a privacy fence, between a different area of the block that's got some parking issues and Hendricks Golf Course issues. So I just want to reconfirm to those residents on Fairview that we were on the scene today. I took a bunch of pictures. I was in 3 different backyards while the icy rain was falling on us. And I will be communicating and advocating on their behalf to the county starting tomorrow. I also had a meeting today with residents of Fairway. They also have golf course complaints, not Hendricks Golf Course, but Forest Hill Country Club complaints. I've already reached out to Forest Hill Management, and we're going to be doing a tour of that too. So I just want to assure those residents, if they're here today, specifically to talk about those 2 things, that I am on it. Past events, we had a great Martin Luther King flag raising. I believe that was last Monday. The township also gave a challenge to actually do a good deed or provide a good service. That was in conjunction with our blood drive that happened a few days after the Martin Luther King Day flag raising. And I'm looking at my notes here. We had a total of 31 donors show up with 27 pints of blood. That will actually help 81 local patients. So great job, residents, for doing that. COVID update, we remain in the yellow. For a long time, Belleville was the only municipality that was in the red. Not even urban centers like Newark, Irvington, East Orange were in the red. For about 2 months, we were in the red. Now it's been probably about 2 to 3 weeks that we remain in the yellow. So good job with that. As we mentioned earlier, the vaccine information is available on our website. Our rec department is telling us that online registration is going to begin for spring 2021 sports. That information is also on our website. I believe it might be the first time that we're doing online registration for recreation sports, so I welcome that. Councilman Revelle will be very pleased to hear that our home improvement program applications are available, and we have a pot of $900,000 for eligible Belleville residents that are homeowners to spend up to $22,000 to improve their houses. That money, if you stay in the house for 5 years, may very well be forgiven. A great program, something that does not get enough press, something that does not get enough notoriety, a program that was started many, many years ago that has been slowly funded every time we have a development come into Belleville. Winding down here, we are about to enter Chinese New Year territory in about 2 weeks or so. Chinese New Year is not normally something Belleville celebrates, but this year it's going to be special to us. Why is that? Because 150 years ago, the first ever Chinese New Year's on the Eastern Seaboard was celebrated right here in Belleville, New Jersey. While we don't have a huge Chinese community, it's an event that's worthy to commemorate 150th year anniversary. We need to do that. I think we had talked for the past year or so that we were going to be doing a Chinese New Year event. Dragons, fireworks, all that stuff. Well, with COVID, we just can't do that. So the township is coming up with a virtual way to celebrate that. And I'm very excited about that program. I think it's going to be very nice for the township as a whole to honor and respect our history. I just want to encourage any and all council members. You might be hearing this for the first time. I've already reached out to Mr. Perone on Historical Society. If any council member wants to participate, we are making short little videos, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, just congratulating the community on 150 years of the first ever Chinese New Year. If you want to make that video, I need it by next week so we can edit it in to the overall presentation. Finally, Mr. Manager, we've talked a lot about the budget. I don't see you. I'm scanning. I don't see the manager. He's there.
Yeah, he's there. He's got to unmute.
I'm there. I'm here.
No, I'm having an issue with my computer again. Sorry. I want to hit this X button. I'm not sure if that's going to do it. So I'm not going to do it. So Mr. Manager's there. So Mr. Manager, we do have a budget committee. We're not big on committees here in Belleville, as you probably know, but we do have a budget committee. That budget committee consists of myself, Deputy Mayor Graziano, and Councilman Cosarelli. We are anxiously waiting the budget sheets, anxiously waiting a meeting with you and other key members of the administration So we as a council don't get the budget. I think historically in years past, the council is presented a budget and they're told that they have to vote yes on this. I don't think that that's really our inclination this year. I think we want to be a little more hands-on. So if you can do what was promised, that we were going to get multiple scenarios, whether it was a 0% increase, a 2% increase, a 5% increase, whatever those scenarios were that we discussed 2 months ago, I would love to have them so the budget committee can review ahead of a sit-down meeting with your staff. Is that something that we think we can wrap our hands around?
Yeah, so the budget is done on the appropriation end. All of our expenses are in. So that's the good news. The final number or any kind of projection without the revenue part is the part that is going to create a delay. And when I say revenues, well, first and most important, you have to reconcile 2020 to find out how much surplus we actually have to use into the following budget. That doesn't happen until after everything is reconciled. Right now, we're doing our best trying to reconcile all the accounts of 2020. It's not too unusual for us, January 26th, to still be reconciling your 2020 accounts. And again, we're trying to use the manpower we have to get that done. Joe Falcone has been a great assistance, and Judith is still helping in a great way. So we appreciate that. Our revenues, the state is going to allow the community to use an average of 3 years. The problem is we just don't know which 3 years they're allowing us to use.
So let me just interject for you.
Sure.
I speak as one. I speak as one of 7 council people, and I speak as one of 3 in the budget committee. I'm interested in seeing a budget that has 2020 revenues in it. I think we're lying to ourselves and setting ourselves up for failure if we are allowed. And it's great that the state wants to allow us to use an average of 3 years. This year's revenue is not going to be an average of 3 years. This year's revenue is going to be very similar to 2020, since 2020 was predominantly in a COVID pandemic year. And it looks like 2021, at least for the first 6 months or so, is going to be a COVID pandemic year. So I, for one, as one person, as one vote, am not interested in a blended 3-year revenue. I'm interested in just, if you simply take 2020's revenues, which were very low, and plug them into 2021, that's what we should really expect. Otherwise, by October, November, December, we're going to be running into problems. Just to let the people that are the fine residents of Belleville that are listening, I like to use this example because this is the only example I know. In 2020, our court revenue, which is normally basically $1 million, was only $600,000. What's that mean? That means we should take $600,000 in anticipated revenue, in revenue from 2020 and anticipate $600,000 for 2021. I don't want to take a blended year of 3 years and anticipate 800 or 900. It's not going to happen. So why leave ourselves short at the end of the year? I'm interested in the worst case scenario, which is 2020 revenue. So if we can do that, I would be very happy with that. But can the budget committee expect some kind of budget being shown to us sometime soon?
Absolutely.
Okay. Date, like the end of the week, you think we can get, if it's?
No, not the end of the week. We don't have a full-time finance officer, but before the next meeting.
Before the next meeting. Okay. I'm okay with that. That's really the conclusion of. Last item is the council, and again, this is for you, Mr. Manager. The council discussed previously just getting an update on some of our redevelopment items. I know that there were some emails sent with our redevelopment committee, and I know Dean said our redevelopment council was going to update our agenda and then provide that to you so you can update the council. So for next council meeting, which is our committee meeting, just hoping Steve Martino, our attorney, will tell you if that's going to be done in executive or not. But I think that's something the council wants to hear, is just a quick rundown of where we are and where we're going with some of these outstanding development projects. So you think we can do that for next council meeting?
Yeah, I think the timing would be great to have Dean at the next probably executive session, because some of those things are ongoing negotiations.
Yeah, I do. And you can work that out with Dean, but I do think Dean was going to provide that information to you to give us an update. But either way, as long as the council's updated, that's kind of what I'm interested in.
Got it.
That is it for my mayor's report. The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes.
A regular meeting of September 22nd, 2020.
I need a motion to approve. I heard Councilman Ravel.
We need a second, right?
Do you need a
Second.
I think that second was maybe Councilman Natari.
Nope.
No?
Cosarelli.
No, it was Mike.
Cosarelli.
Yep.
Either way, we have a motion made in second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli,
Yes.
DePena,
yes,
Graziano,
Yes.
Natari,
Yes,
Rovell,
Yes.
Strumelob Burke, Mayor Melham.
Yes. Next item is communications.
A letter received from John and Lillian Healy to Fire Chief Olivieri thanking the Belleville Fire Department for the quick response and putting out a small fire in their home.
Very nice. We like getting those kind of communications.
Yes.
So the next item is item number 10 is ordinances. We have ordinances for public hearing, second and final reading.
Ordinance number 1, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Police Regulations of the Codified Ordinances of the Township of Belleville.
Do I have a motion to open for public hearing?
So moved.
make a motion to open.
second,
We have a motion made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays, we are open for public comment just on this particular ordinance. So if you're here for the first time and you want to speak at the council meeting, your time is going to be during public participation. At this point, we're going to ask for speakers that are just speaking on this particular ordinance. The way we do it, I'm going to try and be as consistent as possible. I'm going to ask the clerk if we have any emails or any written communications regarding this particular ordinance.
No, I do not, Mayor.
I think I saw one.
Did you?
Yes. I know I saw one.
I only have 2.
I think it was Mr. Draws. I think he
Yes,
asked.
read Mr. Draz's.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I have one from Mario Draws, 95 Bell Street, and he states, ordinance number 1, can you please explain?
I've reviewed it. I'm gonna defer to the manager if there's anything more specific, but it looks like there's an amendment being made to requirements regarding litter, refuse collection and recycling. I did have a conversation with the clerk a couple hours back, asking for a little information as to where this came from. It does say that the mayor and council are the ones that kind of put it on. That's not really accurate. So I guess I have my own question on this. Where do we know yet where this came from?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this was our DPW superintendent looked over the ordinances regarding certain DPW activities, and it was at their request that I drafted this to be consistent with what they actually do, and certain dates and certain definitions regarding construction debris that you can't put out. It was merely just to make what they do, the ordinance, consistent with what DPW actually does. They were litigated, dates were changed and things like that. It's basically those kinds of things. And to actually increase some of the penalties for illegal dumping. The penalties were so light that it paid more to dump than it did to get a fine. So that's basically in broad strokes what it did.
Yeah, I just didn't know where it came from and who did the writing. So I'm glad that at least an attorney did the writing.
We actually had a meeting with the town manager, myself, and Bob Welter.
Okay, good. Thank you for that information. Thank you.
Oh,
Mr.
and the inspector who inspects and issues these types of summonses.
Gotcha. Okay, any other comments regarding that particular, this particular ordinance? So we went through anybody that wrote in. I'm now looking on videos to see if anybody's waving at me. I don't see anybody waving at me. So now we're gonna go to the third tier, which is anybody that's on their telephone. If you do want to speak on this particular ordinance, just unmute yourself and present yourself. I don't see anybody desiring to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to entertain a motion to close public hearing and move for final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made and second to close public participation and move for final adoption. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
yes,
Graziano?
yes,
Nattari?
yes,
Rovell?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
what
Okay,
happened to me?
Oh, I didn't know you were there, Councilwoman. Councilwoman
I'm
Burke,
sorry. Okay, yes,
thank you.
all right. So next item on our agenda is going to be public commenting. I need a motion to open public commenting.
Motion open public.
second it,
I believe we have a second on that. I heard a motion. I heard something else. I'm going to call that a second. So we have a motion made and second to open public commenting. All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
aye,
Okay, so now we're in the public commenting section. So for those of you who are new to these meetings, at this point, you can basically speak on anything that you'd like to speak about. You do have 5 minutes to speak. We do ask that you state your name and address for the record. I see some hands going now, but first, we're just going to stay consistent and go first to email comments that were sent in. So Madam Clerk, I always seem to lose my hard copies, but I know that you have a couple that were emailed in, correct?
Yes, I do.
All right, so let's take the first one.
First one is from Mary Ross, 95 Bell Street, and he states, resolution number 8, body cameras. Is the town buying this with our money or is it part of a grant? December,
So
go ahead.
if I can answer them quickly, I'm just going to jump in. So the township did bond for this, but somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. Once we expend the money for body cams, the governor did pass, I don't know if it was executive order or legislation that then reimburses us. So we did bond for the money. So it's not coming out of our operating budget, but we did bond for it. We allocate it for this. We will make the purchase. We will then submit for reimbursement, and we should be reimbursed for that. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. If not, we will move on to the next comment.
On December 23rd, 2020, Governor Murphy earmarked $58 million for body cams for law enforcement agencies. Why buy when we can get it from the state?
I think that's part that we answered already. I think that in order to facilitate that, we did have to expend the money and then ask for reimbursement, which is what we're doing.
By the way, you have the audacity to criticize Governor Murphy for not wearing a mask on Inauguration Day. He was COVID tested several times prior. Take a look at you online photos with no mask. All the weddings you did last year in Town Hall when it was closed to the public.
So
Last-
I don't have is that the conclusion of that statement?
Yes.
Okay, so I did not criticize the governor. Mario, you seem to never get your facts straight. I did not criticize the governor for not wearing a mask. I criticized the governor for leaving the state, going to DC, which does ask you to quarantine when you get there and not quarantining, and then leaving DC, coming back to New Jersey, which does require you to quarantine and not quarantine. So I did not call out the governor for not wearing a mask. I called him out for us quarantine when he does not have to quarantine. When I was performing weddings in Town Hall last year, masks were not required or mandated. Go ahead.
Last meeting, my last question was not answered. Here it is again. Please answer. I would like to see the town council pass a resolution this evening condemning the January 6, 2021 insurrection and terrorist acts of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Copy of this is to be sent to New Jersey Senators Booker and Menendez. This should be a decision by the council as a whole, not by King Michael alone. Last meeting, I questioned you take over the town. I questioned your take over the town website with no contract or agreement by council approval. Your answer was that you are saving the taxpayers' money. I still believe you are in conflict. You get to advertise your business advertise your business. If I remember, you took medical benefits for yourself as soon as you get sworn into office, which may have been illegal. To make it legal, you then voted to give yourself medical benefits at a possible cost of $12,000 to $15,000 a year. You really saved us money. Self-interest again, just like the contract you got last night from the Board of Ed for office space rental at your building for $2,950 a month. In a coincidence that you supported the Board of Ed majority in their election. You say the health officer sent a letter recommending not to have live town meetings at the high school. Why is he allowing the Board of Ed to have them? It is my understanding that that Councilwoman Burke brought up the spending of thousands of dollars of a live camel, etc., for the January 6th celebration of Three Kings, also known as the Epiphany, which is viewed as a religious holiday for many. Viewing the video, she asked at what work session did the council approve the expenditure? Was this your decision alone? I was sent to a Catholic grammar school where it was always celebrated. Just so happens it is my birthday and Councilwoman DePena's. It is a big celebration, not only for the Spanish, but in Europe and around the world. I agree to the celebration based on the budget. You should only be spending what the town can afford during this budget crisis. Seniors and others on fixed income can only spend what they have.
That,
That,
I made some notes. I'll take it from the last, I guess, going backwards. What work session it was discussed? Councilwoman Burke is a councilwoman, and she could obviously raise that question if she's so inclined to do so. I'm not sure why Mario is speaking for her, but we do not vote on anything in work sessions, and we don't vote on specific events ever. I've been here for almost 3 years. We don't vote on when we're going to have an event. It doesn't come to a vote of the council. It's just not the way it works. Anybody that's been here for as long as Councilwoman Burke has been here should probably know that by now. Thousands of dollars for a live camel. Again, Councilwoman Burke, who brought that up at last meeting, was a little inconsistent. And I'm being kind when I say a little inconsistent, because she was against having the Three Kings Day, which serves 50% of our population, which is our Hispanic population, but had no complaint about the Christmas drive-through, which was only 2 or 3 weeks before that. And Councilwoman Burke's facts were incorrect. It was not thousands of dollars for live camels. I think it was $1,600 for camels. And I must say they were the biggest hit. As all those cars came through and all those cars were waving and taking pictures from inside the cars, I would say the camels were a big hit. If Councilwoman Burke was so inclined to show up at that event, she probably would have actually seen that. Regarding our health officer, that's a great question. I'm somebody that would prefer in-person meetings. I've said that. I've been consistent. I've actually written a memo to our health officer months ago to find out why we can't do that. Things were changing with COVID and restrictions back then. It's a great question why the Board of Ed is allowed to do. I know their location, their venue is bigger, but then again, we've actually had events, meetings at their venue. I would be okay with it. If the health officer, we can do that, I would be fine with it. Why there's that inconsistency there, I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's a question for the Board of Ed specifically. As far as the website goes, I mean, this is just petty stuff, typical from you, Mario. The residents that are listening to us should know that the township used to pay about $17,000 a year for an awful, horrible website, $17,000 a year. My company does that. My company's donating our services. We don't get charged. We don't charge anything for it. I have professionals on staff. I have a staff of 7. More than half of that are professional IT people that earn a salary of $90,000 plus. That's benefits, that's pension contributions. That's a lot of different contributions there. And my company provides the service for free, which means that in my 4 years that I will be here at a minimum, that is a $68,000 savings to the township. I don't remember you, Mr. Drost, complaining that the prior person that had the website had no business experience with municipal websites, and he happened to be just a supporter of the mayor back then and just got a nice contract, I guess. But you never did complain about that. But I'm saving the township $68,000 over 4 years, and you don't really comment on that. You'd rather just say that it's a conflict for some reason. Not quite sure where the conflict comes into play, but I think that covered mostly everything else. Did anybody else email any kind of comments?
Yes, the next one I have is from Vinnie Frantantoni, 129 Mount Prospect Avenue. Resolution number 14, what streets will be doing with this water main relining project?
Mr. Manager, can you help?
Kimball and Watson.
Wait, oh, I'm sorry. Can you say it again?
The to resolution 14, it's in reference to Kimball and Watson Street.
Okay. Okay,
Resolution-
so we're doing 2 streets. Okay.
Resolution 15, what streets will be paved under this bid? Is this the 2020 CDBG project or is the agenda incorrect?
Mr. Manager?
So the streets are Graylock, Union to Passaic, the entire street of Fairview Place, the entire street of Valley Street, Ralph, Graylock to Little, Lake Street, and it also includes 88 curbs and 88 ramps and concrete curbs.
So I know that some residents get confused that with the resolution year is often not the year that we're in. Can you just speak to that for 1 second?
Well, it's by the time the money gets allocated to the community, we're running almost like a previous year. So we do the 20 streets in 21, we'll do the 21 streets in 22, and so forth, so on.
And I'm sorry, I was looking through my agenda when you were, can you just rattle off those streets again for me?
Okay, so it's Graylock from Union to Passaic, the entire Fairway Place, the entire Valley Street.
Fairview.
Fairview.
I'm sorry, Fairview Place, Valley Street, Ralph, from Graylock to Little, and Lake Street.
Okay, so yeah, so I know we have some residents here from Fairview, and I did promise them today that I believed it was on the agenda today, so I'm glad. But just in case you're on this call and you've heard that you're on the list or whatever that means, there's all kinds of pots of money. So just because this is one particular resolution allocating money or accepting bids or going out for bid for streets that the manager just named, that does not mean these are the only streets we're doing this year. There's CDGB money. There's all kinds of money out there, that different pots that we grab. But I'm glad that Fairview was mentioned in this particular list. Anything else from Mr. Frantantoni?
Yes, why are we buying all these vehicles at one time? Who is the Ford Ranger Super Cab for? Ditto the Ford Explorer four-wheel drive SUV.
I believe the manager can speak to it. I believe both of them are DPW related. Mr. Manager?
Yes.
And it's just typical of what we tend to do as a government. Even you'll see that with police vehicles, we do lease police vehicles. That doesn't mean we lease and give them back. It's just the way financing works here. So we will lease vehicles for 4 to 5 years and sometimes buy them out for $1. It's all part, it doesn't come out of our operating budget. This is 5% of our budget that we're allowed to always bond for, and that money gets paid through the bond that we've already bonded for. So the money's already in place. This is now we're just executing the agreements.
Next one is resolution number 29. Why another sweeper? I seem to recall we bought one recently.
That is true. I do believe we bought one recently also, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, so it's very simple. We have 3 routes and we only have 2 working sweepers. So again, unless we want to start diminishing services.
I'm going to stop you 1 second, Mr. Iacono was not from Belleville when we brought him in. And I remember very early on in his tenure here, I pulled him in and said, there's just something wrong here. We have 2 street sweepers, but we sweep on, we have 3 different zones or routes, and we can't physically, geographically cover the amount of ground we say we're covering with only 2. And then we realized there was a flaw in our route that the DPW had been working around for a long time. I believe now this might be a solution, correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, we have a route that has a calendar for a street to be swept, and with 2 sweepers, we just can't get to the street. So, again, we need a 3rd sweeper.
And I do want to say to my budget conscious friends that are out here somewhere, the manager did explore at my behest, maybe even privatizing that extra route, or if it's a small amount of streets, hiring an outside company to come and do that. Did we not try that, Mr. Manager?
We did. We had actually 2 companies come in to give us some proposals to see if it would be to our advantage to privatize it, and it really doesn't. It doesn't work. And again, Public Works just got to keep doing the job that they're doing, cleaning the streets.
And just to be clear, we were not privatizing the entire function, just that overlapping streets that we can't get.
Correct.
Not be viable. Anything else from Mr. Frantantoni?
Yes, I have previously questioned why our DPW vehicles are abused and not maintained properly. They ride around town filthy and in disrepair. Do we have qualified drivers who can avoid damage to the vehicles as they perform their duties? The trucks look like they were in a demolition derby. Can we mandate that they are to be power washed at the end of the day or in the morning?
So I can let the manager jump on, but I will say that if Mr. Frantantoni or anybody else drove past the DPW lot at 3 o'clock and saw them power washing the vehicles, as opposed of the vehicles being out in the street, we would get complaints that DPW is now power washing vehicles instead of having the vehicles in service. And I will also say that something this council has done, because this council has invested more in technology than probably collectively every single council in the history of Belleville, including mine 20 years ago. This council's done a great job at technology. Mr. Manager, you can speak to it real quick, but I believe that most DPW trucks are now chipped, where we know how fast they're driving, where they've been, how long. You get a notification, Mr. Manager, if they sit at Dunkin' Donuts too long, correct?
I do. I get notification if they go out of town. I get all sorts of notifications all day long. We have our superintendent with us too. So please, Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong. We do have a cleaning schedule. No, they do not get cleaned every single day. It's just not only cost efficient, it's just not time efficient. We can't pull off trucks off the street to wash them when they're working. We try to get a full day's work out of all of our employees and all of our equipment. But I can assure you that all of the new equipment is being kept in new condition. And some of the old equipment, some of the equipment that I think Mr. Frantantoni is referring to, is 15 years old. So I don't care what kind of work you put on that truck, it's still gonna look 15 years old when we get done with it.
Okay, anything else?
One more. Finally, my wife requested an Oprah copies of all expenses relating to the purchase and installation of the pedestrian crossing lights installed at Greylock Parkway and Forest Street, including our materials and labor expended on this project. The answer she received was, per the engineering department, there are no records responsive to your request. Is this possible? Or did the pedestrian light fairy make them appear one day? Answer, please.
I cannot answer that, so I'm going to toss that back to you, Matt. Clerk, for an
Yes.
update.
Go ahead, Cal, I'm sorry.
When I received the request, I sent it to our engineering department, who maintains all those files for that particular kind of work. Mr. Harretts searched his files. He believes that the work happened quite some time ago, and we no longer have the records. Therefore, there's no records responsive to the request.
Got it. Okay. Anybody else email?
No.
Okay, so now we're going to go to our second tier of public commenting. If you're on video, I see a hand from Mr. Mafucci. So let's start with Mr. Vic Mafucci. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Vic Mafucci, 61 Continental Avenue. You did answer a good part of my question about the vehicles. The only thing is you mentioned leases. I believe these are all purchases.
Yeah, I was giving an example historically to what we do with our police vehicles, but yeah, this is different, but the money's already bonded.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, hands, I'm looking for hands. This is the screen one. I see Miss Fleischman. Carmela?
Kevin, good evening. How are you guys? All right, a couple of questions. Mr. Mayor, I sent you a email through the town and through the campaign email. Never received response, and it was bounced back a few days later. I may have inadvertently typed in the wrong address, because I know you answer all emails when you can, because I know you wouldn't obviously not answer an email from me. I understand that, because that would just be rude. So I will verify that I am getting your proper email.
Well, let me I could answer that right now. If it bounced back, I obviously could not respond to it because I didn't get it. But the campaign email is not an active email, so my email address is right on the town website.
Right, and that's where I put it through. And like I said, it did get bounced back. Like I said, I may have inadvertently typed in the wrong address. I'm old, things happen. I was listening to the Board of Education meeting last evening, and Dr. Tomko was very interesting things to say, such as about the opening of the meetings to the public, since the school board can do it. And I'm assuming he's getting the same information as you are from our health commission. And again, I really find it interesting that the Board of Education can have their meetings and we still can't. Also, he brought up an interesting point about the, the leasing of the property. Now, I understand in the grand scheme of things that everyone is looking to save money. He expressed that he, searched and searched and searched for under $2 a square foot because that's what the administrator Egan gave him, things like that. I just find it interesting that it happens to be your building. And again, that's fine. If you were the lowest bid, that's great because logically you want to save the town and the school board wants to save the taxpayers and the parents as much money as humanly possible. If possible, I don't know if this is an open thing that I can ask for. Can I see the bids? Can we see the bids about this? Or I don't know if I come through you, the township or the school board. That's another question. And again, I just see the rudeness and the lack of respect in your answers and the way you deal with people. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say these things. It's just the same nonsense. The arguing with mayor, the council last meeting, towards the end of the meeting. If you guys have a problem, don't argue in front of the township. If you have a problem with any of the council members, go talk to them privately. Don't argue like small children. So thank you.
That's it? Okay, so thank you for your comments. I'm not sure what, I did not attend the meeting yesterday. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about a bid. There was no formal bids. I do know that Dr. Tomko has looked exhaustively for office space and for pre-K space. I do know that he did say that the one portion of the meeting I did see was some of his comments. I never even stuck around to see the vote, actually. But I do know.
We passed.
Well, yeah, I found that out. I do know that he talked about the price per square foot being to everything else he's done. If you want to compare, I have a building right next door to Town Hall that's $26 a square foot, triple net lease. And I would have loved to rent it that, but unfortunately that's just out of their ballpark. So that wasn't what they were interested in doing. Dr. Tomko ran that up the flagpole. It seemed to be okay. It's not a bid. There's no document here in the township. Dr. Tomko did an exhaustive research. I believe he used the word optimal 7 or 8 times in his presentation yesterday about the location and about squaring up 8 more classroom space for our children, which I know a lot of people are very interested in doing. And yeah, there was no issue with it legally. There was no issue with it conflict-wise. And I think we all saw democracy happen yesterday out in the public. And Dr. Tomko said at one point, I'm looking at my notes from what he said. He said, and I quote, "This is 100% my recommendation." And we all know Dr. Tomko is a straight shooter. And we'll know that Dr. Tomko, this is something that he wanted. This is something he wanted to do to free up classroom space. Sorry that people are upset about it because of who the owner of the property is. I get it. I'm used to it, but it's a good decision, I think, for the district. I think freeing up classroom space, and I believe he also said it would be 5 more years before he could free up those spaces if he didn't act when he acted. I'm sure I'll get more questions on that today. Anybody else? I'm looking for hands. Is that a hand up, or you're not in full screen? If it is, I don't see any hands up and anybody on video. Oh, yes, we do. Okay, you had your other hand up. Ruben, is that you? Are you raising your hand? Okay, so we're going to have now Ruben Rodriguez.
Hey, I just want to say it's a good job with the rec center. after I spoke last time. I don't know if it was coincidence or not, but the rec center sent out the email the next day, and I'm super excited about getting that taken care of. I just had a question when it came to the rec center and the Little League. I saw they were doing work on School 7, and I don't know if that was with the BOE taking care of that or if that was the town taking care of that, but if there was any way they could get drainage in there, because the girls' sports are kind of take a backseat to the boys' sports when we get canceled all the time. Today's a girl dad day, if you know what today is, and so it's a day that's important, and so the girl sports are just as important as the boys sports. So I was wondering if that was I didn't know who was taking care of that, so if that's something I was looking into, just so we can have a little bit fairer in the rec center. But besides for that, Councilman Cosarelli just waiting for the dog park, so hopefully we'll see that soon. But everything else, I just wanted to thank you for the rec center pushing that through.
Thank you. So yeah, so as I mentioned in my mayor's report, the Rex is going online now at registrations. Number 7 school happens to be a Board of Education property. I do believe that they maintain it. But I will say that drainage is always a problem there, no matter when you drive through that little sliver of Passaic Avenue, which is that little side street between Geralman and Division. There's always water laying there. I've asked our township engineer to look at it. There's always seems to be water just pooling in that vicinity. I know we just did the street and the sidewalks. It's something that we really need to look at, and I'm hoping that one day we could definitely rectify that. But I thank you for your comments. So we're still on people on video. I'm looking for hands. If we don't, so we do see a hand. Okay, Mitch, you're up.
Hi, Mayor, other members. I just want to once again reiterate, thank you for stopping by today. It really means a lot to the local people here, and you see our problems, you know what's going on, and I appreciate you coming out. Thank you again.
Thank you. So that was in my mayor's report today. I visited Fairview and was in 3 different backyards, saw some of the issues on that end of the block. That block's got a lot of issues, all viable, but by the way, between the street being concrete and the lip in the center of the street. I did have a conversation with our police chief, who I know is here somewhere. I did have a conversation with him this afternoon about the concrete street and about the narrow width of the street and how we're going to ask for either a traffic study or his recommendation that maybe our engineer could look at it. You cannot park cars on both sides of that street and then get a garbage truck down, or worse, get an ambulance down or a fire truck down. So I'm going to ask formally if the manager can work with the chief as either the chief or the assistant manager to maybe get engineering to take a peek at that. I will say though, if there's a recommendation to go to one side of the street parking, that might make some residents happy. That's going to make some residents unhappy. Welcome to my life. You make 50% happy and 50% unhappy with every decision you make. But I was there. I will follow up with the county as I promised you, and I will definitely give you guys an update soon. Thank you.
Hey, through the chair, Mike, I just want to make a comment, and I think you brought it up, and so did Anthony. Just so you know, Mitch, this has been on the boards for at least 3 or 4 years. In fact, it got approved last year, and we're finally getting to pave it this year. That's sad. That's how long government takes, but it does.
Yeah, Councilman Ravel, I was explaining that to some of the residents today. It is confusing because you're on the list. Well, sometimes that means you're on the list because we're going to ask if it's a grant to cover you, but you might not get covered, or you're on the list, meaning we've identified that street, but then we still need to bond and pass a bond and go through public hearings. And then once we get the money in place, we then, as you
On the list.
yeah, you're on the list. And then as you see on the agenda today, then we go out for bid. And then it's a process. And and I understand residents that pop on to these meetings, infrequently don't necessarily understand that. That's why I don't mind taking a couple extra minutes to explain that process. And now I think they're all experts on that street. I've been in good communication with them. So anybody else that's on video, I don't see anybody else that's on video waving to me frantically. Councilman DePena's drinking. I thought that was a hand. Okay, so we've exhausted our anybody that wrote in. We've exhausted anybody on video. Now I'm going to open it up to anybody that's not on video on a direct call. Just unmute yourself one at a time if you can facilitate that. Just give me your name and address for the record.
Michael Sheldon, 47 Floyd Street.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Sheldon.
Thank you. Earlier tonight, during your comments, you spoke about the 150th anniversary of the Chinese American presence in Belleville, and you mentioned that you reached out to Mike Perone, our historian, who's really ultimately responsible for making us all aware of this important aspect of Belleville's history. Can you tell me when you reached out to him about coordinating the events for the 150th anniversary?
It was either yesterday or today, and he's actually already responded to me.
All right, well, glad to hear it, because I spoke with Mike yesterday morning, and he was understandably very upset that you had sent out press releases, and he was contacted by at least one reporter wanting to know why there was no mention at all about Mike Perone's involvement with the Chinese American situation, and you were single-handedly presenting yourself as solely responsible for this. So I do hope what you just said is true, that you are going to make Mr. Perone an integral part of this celebration. It's the least you can do. He deserves this recognition. He's the one responsible for all of this.
So I'm not quite sure if anybody can see my phone there, but I believe his response to me was "sounds very good," 3 exclamation points. So I don't think he's upset. I think he said "sounds very good," 3 exclamation points. I think he said that because in my email to him, where I asked him to participate in this with a video, I actually let him know that I do speak on Chinese history here in Belleville in my video presentation. And I quoted him not once, but twice, and all the good, fine work that he's done in making sure that we are all aware of the Chinese history in this town.
We all know that Michael is an easygoing guy. He never wants to make any adversaries with people, but we spoke yesterday morning at about 9:30. He was more than upset that Kevin Canessa from the Observer had contacted him with a copy of your press release, and Kevin wanted to know why there was no mention of Michael. So I'm glad you've already quickly made amends. Perhaps the word got back to you about this, but so be it. Michael and Perone better be involved with it up as a core part of this movement. Let me move on to my next subject, because you're going to look to cut me off as soon as possible. I have a couple more important things to talk about. In regard to the continued use of Zoom for council meetings.
Mr. Sheldon, if you want me to answer your questions, I will.
You already did. So
I didn't make amends to Mr.
I'd like to recapture my time. You could answer this at the end, because you're going to take up at least 4 of my 5 minutes here. So please let me go on. Can I have the floor again?
Absolutely.
Thank you. The continued reliance of Zoom video for council meetings. You had one public meeting last October in the high school auditorium. You were almost burned at the stake, and it was largely because of the water rate increase. So you quickly found a way to go back to this hiding mode where you can carry out your responsibilities, having meetings, but without directly facing the community. Now, I confirmed with Dr. Tomko last week, and I have his written statements, that before he resumed Board of Ed meetings in the high school auditorium, he consulted with state, county, and local health officials. And those local health officials were the township health officials. The same people you claim are telling you it's not safe to have public meetings. Now, is Mr. DiFilippo, whatever his name is, the shared guy, is he only looking at the use of the council chamber for publicly attended meetings, or have you actually asked him about the possibility of using the high school auditorium? Because according to Dr. Tomko, he's been given the all clear by every health official to use the high school auditorium, which can seat under the COVID regulations up to 150 people. All the seats are marked in the room, as Dr. Tomko pointed out last night, to maintain safe social distancing. You could have these meetings, these council meetings in the high school auditorium if you really wanted to, but we all know you don't. Let me move on. You can answer all these in the end and give me all your flippant responses without me able to reply. Now, you continue for the last 2.5 years, take cheap shots at my efforts to be the township webmaster, saying that it was an awful website. It wasn't awful. I granted it was a minimal design, but it didn't stop you when you took over copying all the content that I had to develop. When I took over from you, you had 10 years lead time before I came on the scene. And while you ridicule the fact that over the 3.5 years that I was township webmaster, yes, I got paid about $68,000 for creating the site and maintaining it. But what you don't bother to tell people is just during the period 2010 through the end of 2014, you got paid $120,000 for running the township website. And you may scoff and say that's not true. As I've said previously, I have all the invoices. Mr. Mellon, if you want me to, I'll publish them by tomorrow so everyone in this township can see how much you profited off the township website, a site which you started in 2003, ran through the end of 2014, which was your flagship website, which was your first venture into municipal website design. And in 2013, almost 10 years after you started this enterprise, Monmouth University School of Government evaluated all the municipal websites in existence at the time, and your efforts were gauged by the Monmouth University School of Government to be one of the worst websites in the state of New Jersey. So if you want to show people what a really awful website is, why don't you post on your website, which you continue to use to slander and libel me as though I was involved with the Kimball illegal mailings, in which, by the way, but why don't you post, show the world what you claim was a great website, what I inherited from you, which was absolute garbage. You didn't even have the decency to make actual digital documents available. What you did was just photocopy and scan. There were photocopies of photocopies of photocopies. I spent an enormous amount of time, even though I didn't have to, digitizing all of the township documents so that there were finally actual legal PDFs, which you took over, you incorporated into your run of the township
Thank you, Mr. Sheldon.
website.
Thank
Now,
No, go ahead. You don't have to mute. Mr. Sheldon, I'm going to ask you just to wrap up very quickly. I think he's muted. I was going to give Mr. Sheldon an opportunity to wrap up. I think he's still muted. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really think anybody cares to hear about a website from 12 years ago. So I'm not going to waste too much time on that. With regard to the health officer, I mean, again, if I can't be any more clear, I've advocated in prior meetings that I prefer to be in person. It's easier for me to administer meetings in person. We'd probably be done already if we were in person. I've actually, when we got the opinion from the health officer, I suspected people would think that I was colluding and that I somehow was making it all up. So I made that letter, which was his recommendation, appear on the council as a communication at a meeting, I don't know, a month or two ago. And I've said already this evening that there seems to be some inconsistency. I know they have a bigger venue. Maybe that's the reason, but I would much rather be.
it's the same venue that you used in October. It's the same room you used in October, but you ran scared. You saw what happened when you finally had to address the community. You were excoriated
Thank you,
by countless members of this community. And if you can write out this COVID situation until May of 2022, you will. You're a coward. You're a liar, and you're a pathetic excuse of leadership.
Okay, I'm going to mute you now because your time is way up. So, Ms. Fleischman, when you want to talk next meeting about treating people with respect, make sure that you always counter both sides of the story there. So I'm not hiding from anybody. I've taken abuse before. I've been called names before. I've had people call me things before. That's not a problem for me. That's what I do. And even though I got yelled at because the council decided to raise the water rates, there's 7 of us here. That was unanimous vote. I don't take it personal because I sit in this chair. I expect it, and I get that. And I would absolutely rather to be in person. I think the meetings would go much faster. I've advocated for in-person meetings. I just think that there is some inconsistency there, and I would love to be in person if Mr. Iacono can facilitate that. If whatever the reason is, I would love to be back to in-person meeting. I will say, and I do remember last council meeting, that there is not, maybe I think there's one municipality out of 21 or 22 in the whole county that's actually meeting in person, municipality, meaning council. We have smaller venues. We don't have access to auditoriums. That said, Mr. Tomko,
you have access to the high school auditorium.
And that said, I'm so glad I have a parrot here. So I was just about ready to say, that said, in the past, Mr. Tomko has offered the high school to us, and we had graciously accepted that until our health officer put a stop to it. So thank you. Do we have anybody else here that's on
The same health officer that tells Dr. Tomko he can use
I'm
the,
gonna have to ask you to respect everybody else's wishes here. Everybody gets 5 minutes. You are not special, Mr. Shelton. So please, the more you
you're a
speak.
pathological liar, Mr. Mellon.
Thank you. I just love it. Okay. So anybody else here, without Mr. Sheldon being very rude and taking your time away from you, I'm going to ask that anybody here that wants to respectfully unmute their phone, acknowledge that they have 5 minutes to speak, give me a chance to answer, which I would love to do, and we could have an intelligent conversation. So anybody else here that has anything to say, just I'm going to say going once, you just need to unmute yourself. Okay, I'm going to ask then for the council for a motion to close public comments.
Motion to close public?
Second?
We have a motion made and second to close public commenting. Clerk, call the roll. You're muted.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Natari?
Yes.
Rovell?
Yes.
Strumelob Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Okay, we are out of public comments. The next item on our agenda is going to be resolutions. To let count, I know there were some changes last second here. I'm going to let council members just look through. All right, being none, motion to move the consent agenda.
Can I pull 21 and 22?
Sorry, you're breaking up, Mr. Ravel.
I want to pull 21 and 22.
Can't hear you. What's that?
Come on, you don't like Frank Caputo? Come on.
20 and what is it?
21 and
21 and 22.
You got, hold on, let's go. I'm sorry, I'm not kidding now. 21, you said?
21 and 22, Mayor.
21 and 22.
Correct.
Anything else?
No, I'm good. You want me to make a motion to move the rest of it?
Yeah, just 1 second, Steve. Some other. That's it, right? We're just gonna do 20 and 21, everybody? I'm sorry.
21, 22.
Got it. Okay, so let's get a motion to move the consent.
So moved.
Second?
I heard a motion and I heard a second for the consent agenda. We're gonna vote on everything with the exception of 21 and 22. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Natari?
Yes.
Rovell?
Yes.
Strumelob Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. So we have now on the agenda, we have 2 items left. We have resolution 21 and resolution 22.
Yeah, I want to make a motion to table 21 until next meeting, since it isn't mission critical, and hopefully Dean's going to be at that next meeting. We can
There is a
discuss.
I
motion.
second the motion.
Okay, so those of you who know, we do follow Robert's Rules of Orders. The second there's a motion to table and a second, there is no discussion, unfortunately, on that, and I'm going to adhere to that. I'm going to vote against the table, but there is no discussion once there is that. So council members should probably know that. Anybody in the public wondering why there's no discussion, when there's a motion to table that receives a second, we immediately go to a roll call vote on whether or not we want to table it. So we're going to have, so this, just to be clear, this gets confusing. We don't do this every meeting. A yes vote on this would be yes to table and put off potentially for the next meeting. A no vote would be not to table it, and if that vote carries, to then take action, meaning a second vote. We're clear? I think we're clear. We don't do this that often. Madam Clerk, call the roll to table.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
No.
Graziano?
You're muted.
No,
Is that a no, Councilman?
that's a no.
Natari?
Yes.
Rovell?
Yes.
Strumelob Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
No.
The resolution's tabled.
Okay, so we will carry that to the next council meeting. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 22.
Yeah, motion to move this and just recognize Frank Caputo served on our council. His family, some of them are still in Belleville, and he was also, I believe, the mayor of Barnegat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we pulled this. I was gonna try and pull it. My relationship with Frank goes back to when I was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, to some of the greatest years of my life in the Belleville Little League program. Frank was not my coach. He was FMBA. I was PBA. Rivalries that we still continue today, rivalries that we still talk about today with the players that were on those two teams, PBA versus FMBA. I will say PBA always seemed to beat FMBA back in those days. But even as an opposing coach, I will say he was an individual that had an impact on my life. And as a young man and as an adult, we became friends. And he was a former mayor. He was a former councilman here, Board of Education trustee, Board of Education president. Great guy. Very, very sad to hear about his loss, and my condolences to his wife, Dee, and to the rest of the family for sure. Anybody else?
Mayor, you basically covered it. Yeah, Frank was a good guy, always there for Belleville, great family, still always there for Belleville. They're still doing stuff around town. Just all around great family, and he's going to be truly missed.
Yeah. Okay, so clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Natari?
Yes.
Rovell?
Yes.
Strumelob Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Next item on our agenda as we wind down is going to be new business. Do you have anything for new business? Hearing anything for new business going once? Anything for new business going twice? Hearing nothing for new business, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And second, all in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned, everybody.